Hey guys, today I'm going to answer 5 of the most common questions I get about microgreens. Okay, the first question here is, why do we stack our microgreens instead of germinating them in a germination chamber or using a upside down flat like this on top of a flat? So sometimes what people do, I'll just take an example here. This is some amaranth that was just uncovered. Some people will germinate, like will plant their seed and then put an upside down flat like that, and they'll just lay them out on their shelves, and then when they germinate they'll just take that off. The reason I don't do that is because it requires more horizontal growing space, which I don't have. So I prefer to stack because then I can use this whole area. This is our germinating area. That way I can just verticalize things, which in our greenhouse, as you can see, we don't have a lot of horizontal real estate. We have a lot of vertical real estate, but not horizontal real estate. So if you stack them in the way where you've got an upside down flat on top of a flat, you'd have to go like this and then have another flat and then an upside down flat. So even if you stacked them, you would be using more flats. You'd be using twice as many flats as you need. So this way, I just prefer it this way. We're using the 2 different types of flats right now. We've got the paper pot flats, which I actually prefer, but I still don't have enough to do all of my microgreens with them yet. So we're still kind of using some of the 1020s. They're really crappy, but we use them. And you'll notice I've got a brick on top. So what we'll do is we'll have, we'll do 4 to 5 flats of planted just on top of each other, like this. These were all just planted today. And then on top, an empty flat and a brick. And that works great. So for our dry microgreen seed, we plant all that stuff on the paper pot flats. And what we do is we got a brick on top, but because the paper pot flats have a lot of holes in them, what we do is we put a piece of coroplast on underneath the top flat so that we get an even germination with the flat. What we found is that if we don't do that, the brick here will, everything, all the seed underneath this flat will germinate well, but you'll have like a pattern where you can see the brick, that area is germinated well and everything else didn't. So that little sheet of coroplast is in there to help germinate the top flat. So that's why we do our microgreens this way opposed to the other way. Okay, second question is, can you get a second cut from microgreens? So can you harvest them and then get a second cut? You can, but I don't think that it's worth it. If I had tons of space, maybe, but I find that really only works for pea shoots. So here's some pea shoots. You could technically harvest these and then get a second cut, but the second cut would be marginal at best, and the yield is, at the very most conservative estimate, 50% of what you had, and it takes almost as much time as it does to grow a new crop, in my experience. So it's not worth it. It's just it's a diminishing return things. It's not worth it. One cut is what you get, and that is pretty much universally true for all microgreens. Third question is, what's happening with the microgreen course that I talked about making in the summer? Well, it was a little bit delayed because of me being a dad, kind of thinking I could do all these things and realizing that family life takes a lot of time, which is time well spent, obviously. But we're still doing it, and we are expecting to have it out and ready by the first week of March. So those of you who have sent me your emails, I've got you on a list, and we will notify you when it's ready. We're going to be just powering out a bunch of the content over the course of this winter, and we'll have it up by early March. Fourth question is, where do we get our microgreen seed? So I've done a video on seeds before and I mentioned it, but I'll mention it again here. One thing, if you have a question regarding my channel, use the search first. I use keywords. So if you have a question about compost, put in compost. If you have a question about seed, put in seed in the specific search function of my channel. I tag all my videos, so you'll get a lot of results that way. But I get most of my I get all of my microgreen seed from Mum's Sprouting Seeds in Canada, and they are the best microgreen seed company I have seen, even compared to in the US. Their prices are incredibly, like sometimes 5 to 10 times cheaper than what you would find at Johnny's. Johnny's seed prices for microgreens are absurd in my opinion, especially for things like sunflower and pea shoots, which are like, I call the commodity crops, the ones that I do the most of. Their prices are insane. Mums are like significantly cheaper. And even if you're in Canada, they'll send down there. They got free shipping for orders, I think it's over $100 or something like that. So if you're a commercial grower, it's totally worthwhile to order from Mums. So I get all the main microgreen seed I grow comes from Mums. You know what I've got on the table right now, this is green pea. This is speckled pea. That's what I do for my pea shoots. The green pea goes into our rainbow mix. I get red cabbage here. I've got amaranth. Actually, amaranth we're discontinuing, so we're shutting that one down. But my radish, my cabbage, that's the sunflower down here. All this stuff comes from Mums. Okay, some people ask me, this is the 5th answer or question, are what are the ones you shouldn't grow? There's 3 that I find have been consistently the worst ones that I've grown over years. I've tried many varieties, even this spring. If you go back into my videos in April of this year, you'll see me do a bunch of trials. Like I was doing stuff like shiso and shungiko. I tried quinoa, all kinds of different types of brassicas. We tried all kinds of stuff. We've narrowed it down. All those trials, the only ones I kept in there were red amaranth and red cabbage, but I'm even dropping red amaranth right now. So my rainbow mix, which is a product we sell at the stores, is only gonna have red cabbage, a radish called Triton radish, which is very colorful, and green pea. So it's those 3 varieties. So I tried well over 10 types of varieties there in April. But the 3 that I like the least are beets. I find them problematic. They don't germinate that well. You can get them, you can sort it out, you can do it. They don't yield very well, which, you know, has its cons for sure. And they're awkward to harvest. There's a 3rd thing. And the seed hulls are hard to remove off them. So I just find with all those factors there, they're just problematic and kind of annoying and not really worth my time. The other one in there is chard, which actually is essentially all the same problems that beets have. So, you know, the one common microgreen, or one that chefs will always ask you for, is bull's blood beets. They are beautiful, but in my experience, just not worth my time. So chard would be in the exact same scenario there. Chard looks a little bit different, but the process is exactly the same, because chard seed looks exactly like a beet seed. And the 3rd one in there, I would say I'm sick of growing, is arugula. It's just, I find it's very prone to fungus problems, at least in my experience, and yields aren't great. And I can get a similar product with radish or cabbage. So I find it just easier to not grow that one. You know, I find generally speaking, the smaller the seed variety, like if you get really, really into tiny seeds, the harder that microgreen is to grow. The larger the seed, the easier it is to grow. And of course, there's going to be exceptions in there. But like, for example, basil is I still do grow basil a little bit here and there. It's a very small seed. It's a challenging one to grow. Amaranth, I still grow a bit of amaranth, but we're discontinuing it after this batch. Very tiny seed, kind of problematic to grow. But all the big stuff, pea and sunflower, or even if you get into buckwheat and wheatgrass, those are like no-brainers. They're really easy microgreens to grow. So that's my top 5 most asked questions regarding microgreens. Hope you guys found that helpful. Talk to you later.